my top 25, but it's a power rating, not a ranking. So I want to distinguish the difference before we do this. Power rating is head to head, neutral site tomorrow, who wins. Compared to a ranking, especially in the preseason, has a little prediction based, a little bit of last year, that type of thing. Little quick example, power rating. Alabama's 11-0. They're going into Jordan Hare playing the Iron Bowl. Auburn's 7-4. Maybe Bama drops that game. Um, in that case, Bama's not necessarily going to fall because, say, Penn State's power rated at 2. That gap isn't necessarily closed just because Bama loses. Um, they could just be favored the next day. Rankings, Bama's obviously going to fall. Penn State's going to take that spot. So that's the distinguished difference. I'm going to mark it right now. Um, and this is the only time I plan on mentioning it or saying anything because I know I can be unbiased when I'm being held accountable. So this show will be very unbiased. Um, but I'm a Gators fan, so college basketball and football, I'm a big Gators fan, and NFL, I'm a Commanders fan. So that will be said right now, so that there's nothing to be cleared up. So let's go ahead and hop into this. At 25, I have the Illinois Fighting Illini. You bring back Luke Altmaier. Uh, he transfers in from Ole Miss a few years ago. Has a rough start. Really picked it up last year. Had a great year. You got 5 guys returning on the offensive line. That's a dream scenario for a team ready to make a run. You got some weapons. Aiden Lowry's back at running back. That's a 700-yard guy last year. It's a good running back. Hudson Clement transfers in from West Virginia at receiver. He will lead that room this year, most likely. Moving over to the defensive side, Gabe Jackas is one of the best returning edge guys in the Big Ten. I expect him to really take on a big role. Um, and then also you're returning 4 guys in the secondary, uh, including Xavier Scott. He was two-time All Big Ten selection. He's playing the star this year, so that's a dude who is really good, can play hybrid position. Um, Moving on, so little clarification after our first go with our first team. This is something I just want to give a kind of just a quick preview of these teams right before the season. I can go more in depth next week if y'all want to see that. We don't have much time before the season, so I just want to get through these teams, just touch base a little bit on these teams. Um, so I kind of want to move through this pretty quickly because we got 25 teams to get to. So next at 24, I have SMU, and this team's really going to go with how Kevin Jennings goes. Got to limit the turnovers, got to make better decisions this year. We really saw in that Penn State game. And this also goes into the offensive line. The offensive line has to be better because Penn State broke through there and Kevin Jennings made bad mistakes. Can't have that. But, you bring in Jordan Hudson coming back. He should take a step forward at receiver. And transferring in is Yamir Knight from JMU, James Madison, for those who don't know. That's a good group of 5 transfer, but, group of 5 transfers have a tendency to be 50-50. So we'll see how that goes. TJ Harden comes in at running back from UCLA. Um, if I had to guess right now, I'd say he'd be the starting running back. But we don't know. Derek McFall, there have been really good returns from him out of fall camp saying that he's taken a step forward. So that's an interesting situation to watch for a contender in the ACC. And then lastly, very, very talented, experienced guy in Isaiah Nakobe in the backfield on that defense. He plays strong, and he should be one of the best safeties in the ACC this year. Um, Moving steadily along, I got Auburn at 23. Jackson Arnold comes in. How's that going to go? Um, I think that's really what's going to define this team because if you look at it, you got one of the best receiving corps in the SEC, might even turn out to be one of the best in the nation. Keon Coleman, you get Eric Singleton transferring in from, Georgia Tech. Malcolm Simmons is back. That's another sophomore guy. So that's something to look at. If I had to guess, I'd say it's going to be running back by committee. You don't really got a guy who's stepping up and really taking that spot, which can be an issue. But you know, Hugh Freeze, I believe in Hugh Freeze. So very very young but talented secondary. Uh, four guys are returning, but they're young. So you know, uh, experience. I like to say experience doesn't always contribute to production and wins, because if you get a guy who's a freshman, he plays um, his freshman year, comes back sophomore year, can take a leap compared to a redshirt senior who didn't play much, but has been around the program, steps up and plays. He might not automatically add more wins to your total. Um, and lastly, Keldrick Falk is probably going to be their number one pass rusher this year. I can't see anyone else really taking that role from him. He's going to have to hold down that D line. Pretty good run stopping defense last year, um, but when it came down to it, teams were able to lean on them. Um, that can't happen this year. Excuse me as I take a sip of water. Moving on to 22, Michigan. Now, everyone likes to talk about the whole NIL thing with Bryce Underwood, and it obviously played a part in it. You have to be crazy to think that they didn't play a part in it, him flipping from LSU, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the team. Um, I'm sure there'll be growing pains, but I really do believe in him. That's number one quarterback in the class, a five-star guy. No reason not to. Um, who's going to step up at receiver? That's who's going to help him. Interesting to look at. O-line's a little unproven. And unproven is going to be a word that you hear me use a lot in the off season and days leading up to games, because I don't want to say is a hole or a dim or a bad spot, because I don't necessarily know yet. So that's where you're going to hear me use a lot, unproven. But Justin Haynes transfers in from Alabama at running back. That's a guy who's just, I'm surprised he didn't run for 1,000 yards last year. Didn't really work out at Bama. Goes to Michigan. Should be a safety blanket for Bryce Underwood. Trey Williams transfers in on the D line from Clemson. Damon Payne, you really need those two guys to work out, because you're replacing Mason Graham. That you don't just replace those guys. But the really really bright spot for Michigan here this year is their linebacker core. I mean, one of the best in the nation, led by two seniors, Derek Moore and Ernest Hausman, two studs. Really should be good for them this year. At 21, I have Nebraska. I'm higher on Nebraska this year than most. Later in this episode, we're going to talk about my playoff predictions, and I don't have Nebraska. I wrestled with that. I almost put Nebraska in the playoff. I have them on the right outside, pretty much a 13 seed. So if that doesn't tell you something, it should. I'm high on Nebraska this year because Dana Holgross is coming in at OC, and I think he could really get the best out of Dylan Raiola. Dylan Raiola had an up and down year last year, but you saw lots of glimpses of what he could be. He's just a freshman, 5-star guy coming in. I think he'll be good this year. You surround him with some guys, Dane Key, Messiah Hunter. Both of those guys are transfers. Ja'Cory Barney, you want him to step up because he's your homegrown guy. But I'm really looking at Dane Key here in this receiver room to step up really, really well. Everybody in the secondary for this team has 4+ years of experience. That is unbelievable. That's not something you just find. This defense should be really good again this year. Deshaun Singleton should really be the anchor of that team on defense in the secondary. And the issue is your linebacker room has a lot of new faces. Limited experience on the D-line. Can that work out? If they can get everything settled up front, the secondary's got it. Our first 5 is done. We'll steadily move along. Excuse me real quickly. Number 20, Ole Miss. Austin Simmons has some big shoes to fill. Jackson Dart was a great quarterback for him, first round guy. Can Austin Simmons step up and do that? You bring in two good receivers from the portal. Caden Lee's already there. He's a returning wide receiver. I'd say he's probably their number one right now and should end the season as their number one. Um, Ole Miss is always going to have good backers, good edge rushers, so that's not something I'm worried about. TJ Dottery's back. He's a true backer. He's really good. What's not back is your secondary. You have pretty much a whole new secondary. And, obviously we're just talking about the secondary here, but when you bring in whole units or whole teams of transfers, you never know how it's going to work. One year could be night, one year could be day. Look at FSU. 2023 go undefeated, almost make the playoff. 2024 you go 2-10. It's just one of those things. So we'll see how that goes. Moving along to 19, Tennessee. Tennessee's a very intriguing team to me this year. I'm not ready to just bail on them at all. I'm not. I believe in Josh Heupel. I think he has great leaders on that team. I'm not going to bail on Tennessee, although I am more down on them than I usually would be. If Tennessee pops this year, I would not be surprised. Why would I be surprised? This is something we really got to stop as a community in college football overreacting to certain things. I think the Nico leaving, we all overreacted to it. Obviously, it's going to hurt, but we all overreacted. I'll tell you this: Tennessee's one of those teams I can see pop going 9-3 and also going 6-6. They're just one of those teams that year. Joey Aguilar comes in at quarterback. He needs to be good. He needs to limit the turnovers. Deshaun Bishop, I think, will take Dylan Sampson's spot pretty well. He's a talented guy. Dylan Sampson produced really well last year, but Deshaun Bishop should step up. The issue here on offense is wide receiver. Everyone's been saying it all offseason, but it's true. I really like Chris Brazzell. I really do. He's a big guy. He can make those plays. But after him, who do you got? Defensively, you lose a lot, but I think I trust Josh Heupel. He's more of an offensive guy, but defense last year was their thing. And I trust Josh Heupel to develop these players. And I think their development of their 2 deep will pay off this year because I think you have one of the best corners, maybe the best corner in the SEC, and Gerard McCoy. And I think, no doubt, you have the best linebacker in the SEC in Arion Carter. Arion Carter is one of the leaders of this team. He's the best linebacker in the SEC. No one's going to move me off that fence. If you know me, you know why. Absolute dog. Is the leader of that defense and that team. But when you get 2 guys like that who can really lead, you can elevate those guys who were 2 deep last year to being studs this year. I've seen it before. Moving along to 18, I got Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech I could really see competing for an ACC championship and a playoff spot. They're a physical team like always. You bring back Haynes King at quarterback, just a dog. 4th and 1, he's getting the first down. Load it up, because Haynes King is getting the first down. Jamal Haynes is an elite running back coming back. You usually don't just bring back a backfield tandem like that with QB and running back that good. So they're very fortunate for that. You bring in one of my favorite receivers in all of college football. I know I talked about the group of 5 receiver spot or transfer spot being a little iffy 50-50. With Eric Rivers, it's not going to be. Dude's a dog. That dude could compete on Sundays right now. Kyle Effort is back at linebacker, moving over to the defensive side of the ball. And you know who he is. You might not know his name, but you've seen him. Number 44, guy with the neck pad. Looks like he's playing in the 80s. That's a linebacker, son. That's what you love to see, and especially on a team like that's that physical is amazing. And this is another one of those teams with 4+ years of experience at a unit. For them, it's their secondary. Their secondary should be really good this year. I have some questions up front, but if they can hold it down, then you're not going to move the ball on this team. And just a little clarification: when I say 4+ years of experience, I mean they have either a senior or a redshirt senior in a spot. That's what that means. Moving along to Kansas State at 17. So I'm actually going to pick the Kansas State Iowa State game today on today's show. But a little spoiler alert right now, I have Kansas State at 17. It's going to come down to Avery Johnson. He's got all the talent in the world. Just needs to be a little smarter, make better decisions. Dylan Edwards is a transfer guy at running back from Colorado. Great talent, really good in the receiving game too. He needs to take a step forward. Jace Brown is an elite wide receiver, one of the best receivers in the Big 12, and really is one of the best receivers in the nation too. He's a guy that just anytime you hit him on a slant, it could go for a touchdown. He can get behind you on defense. He could take a screen to the house. Really special talent there. This offensive line, everyone has 4+ years of experience. You love to see that, especially in an era with NIL and the transfer portal, where you really get guys who come together, have the same culture, fighting for the same thing. You love to see that. Very young but an unproven secondary, but they got a lot of talent. Let me tell you, you look at those guys. I want you to look at Kansas State's recruiting class from last year. It's a bunch of 3-star guys, but watch the tape. I mean, it's a lot of underappreciated stars. That's why they win so much. That's why they've been so effective in the Big 12. And they got 2 guys at corner who were freshmen last year, who played some, who are going to be sophomore this year and starting. I trust them. Let me just tell you, I trust them. The D-line is a question mark, though. Cody Strufflebean will step up and be the number 1 edge guy. But who can bring it with him? Who else is coming? Who's gonna step up and say, I'm with the Strufflebean. I'm with him. You know? Moving along to number 16, I got USC. So it seems like the college football public, at least the AP, has given up on USC. I don't know why. I still think that they can be a good team. You know, Lincoln Riley completely overhauled his thinking when it comes to football and a roster. Really went defensive heavy and thinking, so how's that going to go? Jordan Maeva is filling Miller Moss's spot at quarterback. He's a young guy. Inexperienced. He's got to play well because you bring back Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane. Those guys, got to take a step forward at receiver. Elijah Sanders, 1,000-yard guy coming in at running back from New Mexico. He should pop this year, really. Rashawn Silver, D lineman pickup from Kentucky. Dude's a stud. Every SEC team wanted him, and he went out west. You got really good linebacker talent, but my question is in the secondary. It's a hodgepodge, man. You bring 2 starters back, or 2 returners, yeah, but you got 2 transfers and a freshman. Are they going to mold together? How's that going to go? Arizona State at 15, number 1 in returning talent. This team I can really breeze by because I think we all know, Sam Levitt's a dog. O-line only replacing 1 guy. Kanye Udo is a guy transferring him from Army. 1,000-yard rusher. And a very physical offense. Jordan Tyson is one of the best receivers in the Big 12, really in the nation. Once you take away, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, those type of guys, then you start getting into the conversation, and Jordan Tyson's name comes up in that. Every single starter but 1 is back on defense. Every single one. That's all I got to say about that. Elite defense coming from a playoff team, too. Picking up the pace a little bit. We got some more teams to get through. So we're going to try and speed it up a little bit. Just touch base on these teams because we got some more segments to get to. Texas A&M I have at 14. What's Marcel Reed? He needs to take a step. He wasn't bad last year. He needs to take a step forward, though. This offensive line will help him do it because it's elite. This is what you truly call an elite offensive line. You get good guys outside at receiver to help him out, but really, Le'Veon Moss and Ruben Owens, there's three teams that I think really have the best three duos in the backfield, and Texas A&M is one of them. Insanely good duo. Cassius Howard on the defensive side of the ball at edge will be a breakout guy. Mark my words, will be. Absolute stud. And but the defense needs to improve. Elko's a defensive guy coming from Duke. They really need to improve in a tremendous type of way. And I think they will. I believe in Mike Elko. Give him a whole offseason with his side of the ball. That's going to be a scary team. At 13, I have Miami. Obviously, Carson Beck transfers in. We know what Carson Beck can be. What will he be? He's coming off an injury, but what will he be? Will he be ready to go? This offensive line is elite as well. Francis Moanoa, is the leader of that offensive line. Very, very good O-line. But who steps up at receiver? Right now, if I had to guess, I'd say Josiah Trader. Who steps up at receiver? Mark Fletcher is returning at running back. He gave you good production last year, sitting behind Martinez. Excuse me. That's a good safety blanket to be able to hand the ball off to. Ruben Bain and O.J. Federico. Ruben Bain, edge guy. Federico, cornerback. Two of the best in the ACC at their positions. But will the rest of the defense mesh together? A lot of new faces. Some question marks for Miami, more so than other teams. But I think they can contend in the ACC. Moving on to number 12, South Carolina. Let's get this out of the way right now. Lenore Sellers is the real deal. There's a few. If you had to ask me right now, if I had to take one quarterback in college football this year, just surefire guy as my number one, I'd probably say Drew Aller or Cade Klubnik. But there's a list of guys who, if you told me are number one, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say, you're right. There's an argument there. I don't necessarily agree, but I'm going to hear you out. Lenore Sellers is in that. Nick Harbor's obviously a guy at receiver. He's a guy. If you've played college football 26, it's just straight Nick Harbor cheese. But who else? Who else is going to step up? Somebody's got to step up because you can't just double team and roll coverages over there to Nick Harbor. Rashal Faison, is a 1,000-guy running back transferring in from Utah State. Should be a dog. Should be a dog for them. I don't see him slowing down. You watch him, he moves. He's a unit. He's a big dude, and those guys usually survive in the SEC. Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas at edge are going to be one of the best edge duos in the nation. We know what we got in Dylan Stewart. Mark the name Brian Thomas. I promise you this guy's going to be a breakout guy. One of the best. He's going to be one of the best edge rushers in the SEC. But the rest of the D-line is very unproven, especially on the interior. That's got to be cleaned up. You got to, that has to be, looking for the word, serviceable, at least, because you got the guys on the edge. Backers are a little unproven too. You want to see what you got in them. But the secondary, also unproven, but it's homegrown, developed guys. I see that really working out well for them. Moving to number 11, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been getting a lot of hype this offseason. Well deserved. John Mateer is a Heisman candidate. Jane Knott transferring in from Cal, stud running back. Deion Burks and Giovanni, on the outside. Giovanni Gibson transfers in from Arkansas Pine Bluff. Yes, that's a school. Yes, they were horrible. Yes, he was the only good player. That's a hell of a duo on the outside. O-line's a question mark. They overhaul their offense. You bring in a new offensive coordinator. You got a really good offensive line coach in Bill Bendenball, but how's that O-line going to be? That will seriously mold this season. R. Mason Thomas at edge, dog, one of the best in the SEC. The secondary, you look at the names, and you don't necessarily know the names, but that's a deep secondary. That secondary's deep. Somebody goes down, they're fine. Another guy goes down, they're fine. You don't see that in today's college football. Number 10, I got Oregon. And I'm saying it right now, I believe in Dante Moore. Top 15 quarterback this year, mark it. Mark my words. DeCorian Moore is a freshman wide receiver. Wide receivers slept on position this year with them, but I think DeCorian Moore will produce as a freshman. I hope and I think he ends as the receiver one. Mekhi Hughes is 1,000-yard guy transferring in from as a running back from Tulane. He's got to work out. You got Noah Whittingham as well. That's a great running back duo, one of the best. 4 new offensive linemen blocking for him though. It's one of those things where you just got to hope it works out. Very talented defensive line. Obviously, Oregon's recruited very well. That's no surprise. A lot of transfer guys in the secondary. But I trust Oregon when it comes to transfers. Show me a transfer at Oregon that hasn't worked out. You can't, because they don't exist. Dan Lanning knows how to work the portal. Moving on to number 9, I have LSU. Garrett Nussmeier needs to limit the turnovers. I love the big play capability, limit the turnovers. But this offensive line has lost a lot, and it worries me. It really does. A lot of these teams that are question marks at offensive line, I'm a little worried about LSU. Just listening to fall camp intel, O-line's worrying me a little bit. Need good offensive line play. They're set at receiver. I mean, just transfer after transfer. You got guys who've been there, just great at receiver. Nuss has any weapon he wants to use. Caden Durham, he's back at running back, great back. And obviously, going back to the defensive side of the ball, you got Harold Perkins is back from injury, 5-star guy, one of the best. As a freshman, was a freshman All-American, stud. And then you got the Week brothers at linebacker, especially Whit Weeks. Whit Weeks is really good. But the Weeks brothers, that's one of the best linebacker duos. And how awesome to play in Baton Rouge, Death Valley with your brother, hitting licks at backer. I mean, that's a dream come true right there. All right, controversy, and I'm here for it. I got Georgia at 8. If this was a ranking, I'd have Georgia higher just because of the difference in a ranking and power rating, but I am lower on Georgia this year. Let me say this. I've picked Georgia to win the national championship the past 3 years. I am a Florida fan, obviously. That's only going to be said on this first show. That's the only time I plan on saying it. It's this first show. Obviously, I'm a Florida fan. There's a rivalry between Florida and Georgia. That's obvious. But on this show, I can be unbiased. And I can tell you this right now. Georgia's the best program in college football. They have the best head coach in college football. This team's just going to be a little down. That's fine. It happens. It's college football. New era college football. Which I have also been on the record stating Georgia's going to survive this era of college football and still be the best program. But I'm low on Gunnar Stockton. I love the tenacity he plays with, and I love how he can rally the locker room. I'm just not big on him. We'll see how it goes. But this is the best receiving core they've had in a while. Zachariah Branch obviously being the main guy that you think of transferring in from USC. I don't want to throw too many names out there because that just turns into mush for a lot of people. But Dylan Bell, there's a lot of them. My question is the O-line going to be good? They weren't aggressive in the portal like people thought they would be, so they trust their guys. That better pay off because they could not run the ball last year. Can they run it this year? That's my question there. Elam Mendoza is an elite. When you talk about just elite football player, think Elo. This guy is a linebacker coming from Army. I explosive is an overused term. Just like generational talent is an overused term nowadays. This dude, I'm not gonna say generational talent. I'm gonna say explosive. Though. Extremely explosive. Watch the film. Elite. Um, Dylan Everett at corner and KJ Bolden at safety. Those are both elite talents. But the rest of the defense is a little unproven. I trust Georgia. I trust Kirby Smart. But my issue this year is the too deep. They don't got it like they have. Georgia in the past has won because their too deep has been capable of stepping up. I look at that depth chart and I'm thinking, it doesn't look the same as previous years. Continuing into the controversy, I have Florida at number 7. Little spoiler alert, I think Florida's going to beat Georgia this year. You can call me biased, and this is what I'll say. If Florida is not in the playoff race at the end of the season, I will record a video of me with the clown nose on, post it anywhere I need to post it, and say I was stupid. But I believe in them. I think they're going to be good this year. DJ Lagway speaks for herself. Jaden Ball in the backfield speaks for herself. J. Michael Sturdivant transfers in. Eugene Wilson's there, coming back off an injury. You get Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, 2 5-star receivers, the top 2 receivers out of the state of Florida. But what really, really is going to set the tone for this team is the offense and defensive line. Top 5. Both of them are top 5. And if you don't believe me, you can check any rankings. I mean, even look at PFF. PFF has both of them ranked 4th in the nation. Because you got 2 potential first-rounders on both sides. Defense, Caleb Banks, Tyreek Sapp. Offensive line, Jake Slaughter, Austin Barber. And then you look at the linebacking core, Pup Howard, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs, Jalen Woods. It's just so much talent. This is the first year in a while where I think Florida can contend. I've been realistic about Florida the past few years. In 2022, it was what it was with Anthony Richardson, Billy Napier's first year. I didn't really know how to feel about it. 2023, I predicted them to go 7-5. They went 5-7. They disappointed me. Last year, I said 8-4 because I thought they'd take a step forward. They went 7-5, 8-5 with the bowl game win. So I was pretty close. I'm not predicting Florida to go 11-1 every year. That's just not what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna sit here and be biased about it. Moving on to number 6, Notre Dame. Coming off a national championship appearance, close loss to Ohio State. What's CJ Carr? What's he gonna be? I think good. He's got great arm talent. He can move well in the pocket, and that's a lost talent nowadays. That's a lost art. He brings it back. One of the absolute, like I said with Texas A&M, and you're going to see it with Penn State too, one of the absolute best backfield duos in the nation. Jeremiah Love and Jordan Prince, elite. Jeremiah Love is probably the best running back in college football. Jordan Prince by his side is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Thank Sonny Michel, Nick Chubb. Or better. Ridiculous. Need a receiver step up. If it's Jane Greathouse, great. That's who I want to see step up. Help CJ Carr out. Pretty good offensive line. You got 3 starters coming back, 2 new faces. I think that blends well. The secondary is elite. This is one of the best secondaries in college football. One of the best returning secondaries as a unit I've seen in a long time. D-line is a little inexperienced, but what helps with that is having a good linebacking core. And Drake Bowen is a stud. Guy's ridiculous. Watch some of that film. You want to see someone who will thump your behind? Watch him, son. All right, moving on. Pause. Moving on to 5. My 5th-ranked team, I have Ohio State. Julian Sayin, former 5-star guy from Alabama, transfers in last year, wins the job this year. And I think he'll live up to the hype. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. Insane receiving core. I'm not going to throw all the names out. Actually, I'm going to throw all the names out there. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis. Like, this receiving core is as good as it gets. Ohio State is receiver you. Stop trying to argue with it. Embrace it. Um, this new line is battle tested. Not guys who've necessarily started, but they're battle tested. You love to see it. Um, Caleb Downs, one of the best players in college football, regardless of position. We know what he is. Igbinosun at corner, I think he improves a lot. He was really good last year, but wildly inconsistent. I think he improves this year. I think he'll be really good. Um, very very unproven but talented defense all over, pretty much. How that works out, only time will tell. But I trust Ohio State's recruiting, scouting, and development. Number 4, I guess for some reason this is controversial. I don't get it, but I have Alabama at number 4. I think Ty Simpson's going to be a dog, former 4-star guy. I think he can be good. If Ty Simpson plays B to B plus football this year, Alabama's in the SEC championship. Because the team around him is just insane. You have an elite offensive line, elite receiving core. I don't, you know, that Ryan Williams obviously is the headline there, but just elite receiving core. Jam Miller's there at running back. The linebacker room in the secondary is so good that I'm actually not. I'm not going to read off the names. There's no reason to go because I would be telling you literally every single player in the secondary and linebacker, and I don't have time for that. Just know that everybody in the backer room in the secondary is all SEC capable. D-line on the interior is a little unproven, but you make up for that by having great edge rushers, and LT Overton's going to be that this year. Number 3, I have Clemson. K. Klubnik, I already mentioned the fact that I think he's the best, possibly the best quarterback in the nation. Got 3 great receivers. All of them have all 3 of them will be playing on Sunday. Think back to the Jalen McMillan, Polk, Romo Dunze, Washington trio at receiver. That's what you got here. Mark my words. TJ Parker's one of the best one of the best defensive end guys in the nation. He might be the best edge rusher in college football. He has a claim for it. Offensive line is going to be great, but what do we got at running back? Show me. Week 1, LSU comes to Clemson Death Valley. What we got there? What we got at running back? Because Whit Weeks is going to come clean you. Whit Weeks will come clean you, son. I got to see something. Really good secondary, very experienced. But I think what really shines as a unit on this team is the linebacking core. Wade Woodaz and Sammy Brown, as good as a linebacking duo you're going to get. The Weeks brothers and Woodaz and Brown. Those are the two linebacking cores that are really like that, man. Sammy Brown was the viral kid you saw a few years back, just playing every sport, just great at every sport. Stud. 2, I have Penn State, because I think Drew Aller, like I said before, might be the best quarterback in college football. Just great quarterback. And when you have that, and you have possibly the best running back duo and backfield in college football as well to go with it, and Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, that really helps. I promise you it helps. Huge steps forward at receiver in the portal. Thank God. I'll say a Hail Mary because, my goodness, it was needed. The headliner there is Trevor Pena from Syracuse. All the NIL stuff that happened, that's behind it. That's water under the bridge. We're playing football now. Dude's at Penn State, dude's a stud. This offensive line is elite. That's all I got to say. Offensive line's elite. Secondary's amazing, very experienced, led by A.J. Harris. A.J. Harris is a stud. And he's also college football 25, 85 overall card, stud. You throw him in there, dog. Um, and then Danny Dennis Sutton will also be one of the best edge rushers in college football. Him and T.J. Parker both. Um, T.J. Parker obviously just mentioned last team was Clemson, but both of them will be up there. And finally, number 1, Texas. And, for whatever reason, the most controversial quarterback, Arch Manning. Guys, he was a 5-star. I mean, when you got a 5-star coming out and has sat down like that for as long as he did, he's learning. He's getting the experience. Dude's talent doesn't go anywhere. He's just gaining experience. He's gonna be good. I promise you, he's gonna be good. I'm not gonna sit here and say he's gonna win the Heisman because I think it's irresponsible to do that. I learned my lesson with Nico, overhyping people, but I think he's gonna be a good quarterback. You need guys to step up at receiver. Most desirably, Ryan Wingo, just because he's your guy. He's a sophomore. You want him to be the guy. Quintavion Wisner at running back, 1,000-yard guy last year. You know what you got in him. And C.J. Baxter's coming back off a season-ending injury. That's a really good running back duo as well. It could be one of the best in the SEC. Inexperienced offensive line, though. Texas in the trenches, I trust their recruiting. I trust how well they can go and get players in the trenches, but you need that offensive line to work out. Give Arch a little more time back there to make his decisions, especially to start the year, to get him in the flow of things. Colin Simmons, these top 3 teams, what do they all have in common? They have possibly the best pass rusher in college football coming off the edge. Colin Simmons is that for Texas. Elite. Then you go back to the linebacker, you got Anthony Hill, one of the best linebackers in the SEC. And the secondary is really good. This is a very good secondary led by Michael Taffy, white safety, very rare, but he's a baller. You'd love to see it. So